Hello, and welcome to another session of Connecting the Dots, the interview series where we have thought leaders, innovators, and game changers of our industry sharing their views on the future of our industry, sharing their insights, and sharing their learnings. My name is Andy Waltenspiel, and I'm running a Munich based consultancy where I'm advising leading companies on go to market strategy, innovation, and thought leadership. So let's connect the dots and think beyond the obvious. My guest today has quite a unique experience. He has worked at a broadcaster, a TV distribution platform, a streaming service, and now at a broadcast technology company. So welcome with me, Gaurav Jandwani. He's Executive Director, Media and Broadcast at Arqiva. Hey Gaurav, hi, are you there?
Hi, Andy. Thanks for having me. That's quite an introduction.
Well, it's all about you, right? So that's what you told me. Great that you could join us here today. What an impressive career. You've seen many things from many different angles. So maybe do a bit more detailed introduction about yourself, but also about Arqiva, please.
Sure, Andy. And thank you for those kind words. I'm an engineer by education and then went to business school fairly early on in my career. I recognized that I'm cut out for being a techno-commercial professional. Uh, and I started my career at BT's India subsidiary and then worked at Alcatel-Lucent and then had a pretty fulfilling, almost a decade-long association with Vodafone. I joined 21st Century Fox, which almost immediately became Disney.
Yeah.
And I ran Disney Star
Mhm.
and then led Disney Plus Hotstar for North America and UK. Last couple of years, I've been at Telia, which is the telco in the Nordics, where I ran both the IPTV distribution business and Seymour, the SWOT platform in the region. And
Mhm.
earlier this year, I moved back to be closer home to the UK, where today I run the media and broadcast unit at Arqiva, which is the UK-based global media services company.
So Arqiva is doing quite a lot of stuff, and some stuff that is even critical infrastructure. So something
Yeah.
that probably not many people know. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so it's interesting you say that, Annie, because they actually say Arqiva is the most important company that you haven't heard of. Arqiva has been around for many years and various avatars and shapes and forms. But we are a global broadcast tech company with the UK at its core home. Our traditional business has been to really power up UK's broadcast sector. So there are about 1,500 transmission sites across the country, all of which are owned and operated by Arqiva. We operate about two of the six DTT multiplexes in the UK. We are also the UK's second largest satellite capacity provider. And outside of that, we actually have a pretty substantial and more fledgling global media presence. So this is some of the areas which are more, cloud powered of content distribution and headends as a service. Uh, we still have aspirations to go into areas like hybrid CDNs and so forth, and we can talk about it a little later.
Yeah.
We work with all the major media houses in the UK, the likes of BBC, ITV, Channel 4,
Mhm.
also the global media powerhouses, the likes of Paramount, Warner Brothers. We've had a pretty substantial relationship with Sky, and then of course with some of the other global media brands, Al Jazeera and MultiChoice in South Africa and so forth. So our client roster reads like a who's who of the media space.
Great.
And that's where, and you made an interesting point. We are actually classified as a critical network infrastructure provider in the UK, simply because of the fact that we run almost all of UK's TV and radio networks.
Okay, so you know how to do big stuff for the big boys, and it's a lot. So as a DTT, transmission, satellite, global media, CDNs. So how would you summarize, if there's one term, what is Arqiva? Where would you, or where are you taking it? That's maybe the more interesting question.
Our path is fairly clear. We want to be a global broadcast tech company with the UK at its core.
So the media and TV industry had a crazy time in the COVID period. Now, theoretically, everything could be great, but we're living in a cost of living crisis. We have a war in Ukraine, and many other things. So, what are some of the challenges you see that your customers are facing? And maybe what are the opportunities coming out of that?
Right. No, you're right. It's been a bit of a roller coaster ride for everyone, like not just in broadcast and media, more
Yes.
recently. So if I were to break down some of the challenges, clearly from a broadcast perspective, consumer choice is evolving. So there's a transition from linear broadcast to more IP-based consumption. So you see some of audience declines there, and consequently, both affiliate and ad revenues are under stress. So from a broadcaster perspective, it's important that they find either additional reach or additional revenue streams, or they optimize their cost structures.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, from a pay TV perspective, which I think it's a cusp of something really, really special. I mean, you actually hear the word cord cutting quite often, and especially given the inflationary environment, and like you correctly pointed out, it's discretionary spend, and when cost of living crisis has happened, that's likely to pinch the wallets of consumers.
Yes.
So for them, the challenge is to actually retain and address the pay TV audience. Now, key thing to note is that the TV screen itself is not going anywhere. Like, no matter what's happening, about 70-80% of video consumption still happens on the large screen, right? It's
Yes.
how do you make sure that you form an aggregated experience for viewers, which is where the opportunity lies for pay TV platforms.
Yeah.
Um, from a streaming perspective, it's all in the news now. About 2-3 years ago, everybody was talking about subscriber growth, whether it was Netflix, Disney, and now there's suddenly a pivot to profitability. Now what's happened is that with each incremental subscriber that you get, the cost of acquisition is so high that the focus is to make sure that you retain these customers for longer. But to make it a perfect storm, you have at least half of the subscribers that you're acquiring are the ones that we call as churn and return subscribers, which means that you have seen them before on the platform once. So I
Yeah.
think streaming is continues to be extremely important, but it's a business which will get much more sharper on its commercial focus as we go on. To complete that, I think from a content owner perspective, the beauty is that content travels globally now, right? And then if you're running live events and sports, uh, you want to monetize it to the best extent possible. So for content owners, it's a great time to be a content owner, right? Because the world's your oyster a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think those are the challenges, and I've named some of the opportunities that exist.
So, and how do you see them addressing these challenges or exploiting the opportunities? So, cost down sounds easy. And we see a lot of layoffs, but I think that's probably not the best way to do it. What other clever ways of cost reduction have you seen other than bring in McKinsey and clean the stuff?
I'm glad you say that, and if it were easy, everybody would do it, right? So
Exactly.
yeah. I'll give you a classic example. Let's just say from a perspective of streaming or experience, and that's one of the areas that we work on. I'm just picking that up as an example. That if you're a streaming service, you pay a price for being successful if you are on, say, public CDN, right?
Yeah.
So uh, you'll notice that some of the annual reports of major streamers will tell you one of the risks to their business is the unpredictability in CDN costs. You run England versus Croatia World Cup semi-final, you don't know how many concurrent streamers will pop up. And next month, you'll have an unpleasant conversation with your CFO. So At Arqiva, for example, we have something called a hybrid CDN product, which is a private public CDN offering in partnership with mainstreaming, where our pitch is predictability of cost. So think of it as like a private CDN, but you have your own slices which are available for you to pay at a fixed price. And then every time you have unused capacity, you effectively trade up or trade down. So that gives a streaming platform the experience that you'll get with CDN, but with the added benefit of optimizing costs and so forth. You obviously have the opportunity for the IP transition, but admittedly, that transition has been quite slow because, as you know, our industry is quite risk averse in some respects. So it's
Oh,
always
and legacy always lives longer than we want and than we thought. So, and also broadcast will not die anytime soon.
no. I mean, see, we always say long live broadcast, right? It's that's what it is. See, fact is that there has been a lot of talk of broadcast declining and the slow death of broadcast. But if you look at the dominant share of live video viewing, it's still broadcast anywhere else. I mean, 65, 70% of viewing, and whether you're an advertiser or whether you are a brand or whether you are a broadcaster, free TV today remains, like, for example, in the UK still remains the most viable way to reach out to like millions of households. Like Freeview, for example, is a dominant platform. So I think it's important to recognize that uh, there is still a very core place for broadcast, but it's what we do surrounding it, the preparation for that transition, which is where uh, people like us come in, and it's important to collaborate and work together in that.
So, what are the cool stuffs you bring to the table there?
We are actually working in areas which we, and unsurprisingly, call it the Arc suite of products. No prizes for guessing. It comes from Arqiva.
Yes.
It's a slightly narcissist way of looking at things, but I think we can live with that. So one, of course, is content distribution as a service. So we've got a digital content interchange called Arcade, which helps channel owners, content owners, live sports owners effectively move content or distribute content in a very cost efficient, quick manner across geographies, and it's based on an AWS cloud. The second area literally will become our flagship offering as we go ahead is going back to the concept of aggregation that I described, where we put together broadcast and streaming. It's a unified broadcast and OTT headend. It's a headend as a service called Arcplex.
Okay.
Again, if you are a tier one or tier two operator, TV platform, what you don't want to do is to operate your own headend, right? Because you'd rather focus on content and subscribers and marketing and leave the stuff like whether it's from an efficiency perspective, cost perspective, or just a reliability perspective, you want to leave it to the expert. So like Arqiva has got extensive experience of operating 50 plus multiplexes. Like why would you not actually choose the expert and do it? And then we provide the managed service layer around it.
Mhm.
And third is the one that I described to you, which is in partnership with mainstreaming. It's called Arc Edge. Uh, we are actually doing a POC with a major UK streamer shortly,
Mhm.
where we will bring the hybrid private public cloud offering for CDN to the market. We're very excited about it. I think it resolves some real strategic and important pain points for our customers. One, of course, the predictability of cost. Second, experience, and then the third, load balancing aspect. And very importantly, from an ISP perspective, it's very clear. Like, I mean, imagine going to an ISP and saying, I'm a streamer, I want you to open my network up to another series of boxes because I have my own CDN. That conversation is not going to go far. So
Yes.
Arqiva's vision in that area is to be like the go-to CDN provider for streamers in the UK at least. Given our vintage, our experience, and the secret sauce of that managed networks, managed service layer that we can provide, is the areas that we'll focus on. As critical network infrastructure provider, one of the things that we are very, very sure about is security, how secure the network is. Both from, and in today's environment, you name some of the reasons, we are probably living in an era where cybersecurity and network security is critical. So
Absolutely.
while I understand some of our customers might want to do it themselves, but fact is that you'd want to be in the hands of experts.
So some very interesting avenues you're going down. You know already my famous question. It's if I gave you $100 million, $100 million for the future, how would you invest them for Arqiva? Either is it one of those four that you would bet your money on, or something completely different, or you just talked about security and cyber threats? Where would you put your 100 million?
And it's a lovely question, by the way. I have to admit that you got whatever little gray cells I have going. So I'll give you three areas, and we can debate about what that split is. But one is my personal favorite and personal passion, really, and that stems from the fact that I've been at a broadcaster and at a TV platform and a streamer, and one of the scourges of our industry is the scourge of piracy.
Yeah.
Now, for me, anti-piracy as a service to partner up, there are some excellent software solutions out there to monitor and track, but there is nobody offering that as a service out there. So I would evaluate anti-piracy as a service, as an area. Again, that's not something that we do currently, but that's a personal passion. Left to me, I would definitely investigate that. And I think that has far-reaching implications for everybody across global media, whether you're a broadcaster, whether you're a platform, and the upsides are immense. It's a difficult battle for somebody to fight alone, but if everybody came together with behind a central, almost like a service, like I described, it would actually, it has legs. It could go a long way to scourge the. So
and probably somebody like you who is, at least for the UK, in charge of some critical infrastructure, it would make sense and fit with the perimeter you're operating in. Okay.
Yeah, but it shouldn't restrict us to the UK, because you can, with our the managed service environment, our operating centers, we have a NOC, we have world-class cybersecurity measures, we have all of that, we have reliability. There's nothing that prevents us from actually doing this globally.
So that's one bunch of your 100 million.
My second area, of course, is to it would be we've talked about a lot about IP transition per se on the TV side. I would like to explore audio streaming for radio. There are so many of the radio stations out there who perhaps don't have a digital presence. So for us to offer that audio streaming as an option, as a service, would be a great area. And finally, I mean, we've been talking about it for a while. I think cybersecurity, to offer that to our broadcast partners, to customers that we work with as a service, literally, would be a great offering, right? So it's not a software patch or an antivirus that we'll sell, but we'll actually be in the security agency of which is broadcast grade, but provides that as a service. So those are the three broad areas that I'm going to investigate, and based on how it is, I'll probably split that 100 million across.
Very cool. So piracy, cybersecurity, audio streaming, and radio. I mean, you obviously work with the big boys on a global scale. You feel the pain, you have your finger on their pulses. So more to come, I'm sure. Gaurav, we're reaching the end of our interview. It was a pleasure to have you. Super interesting stuff.
Thanks, Annie. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure. Some of your questions have really got me thinking. So thank you for that. And yes, do watch this space. Hopefully we'll do bigger, better things.
Absolutely. Gaurav, thank you for being with us. Have a great day. Have a nice evening. See you. Bye-bye.